So hello folks, this is me Aman and today I'm back again with another video. So this video will be the part 2 and the last part of our calculator making series, and in this video I'm going to cover all the JavaScript portion that you need to know in order to make our calculator fully functional, because in the part 1 we just only did the HTML and the styling part. So if we talk about this video particularly, we're going to learn a lot of useful concept of JavaScript and also programming in general. So I will request you to watch the whole video so that you could get much out of this video. But before getting into the tutorial, I will request you to like the video and also subscribe to my channel. So yes, with that being said, let's get into the tutorial then. So now here I am in my JavaScript file, but before start working with our JavaScript, what we have to make sure that we will have to first link this JavaScript file to our index.html page. I have linked it before using script tag, and you can do that as well. Okay, so now we can start working with our JavaScript. So the first thing that I will do in here will be to select all the elements from our HTML page, like these screen, both the screens and also the whole buttons. So first we will start doing selecting the elements. So first the thing I will select will be the screen first. I'm naming this variable as screen first, and I'll use the document.query selector to select the elements. So document.query selector, and the class name of our screen first, that is this calculator big main screen first. So just copy it and paste it in here with a dot that indicates that we are selecting the class. Okay, now copy it and paste it with Shift Alt and down arrow key, and now we will select the screen second, and also we will change the name by class name by second. Okay, and now we will select our all clear button. So with that, so for that just copy and paste it with Shift Alt and down arrow key, and for all clear button name I will say A C B T, and I'm using camel case in here, and I will just paste the class name in here. So just copy it and paste it in here, and again copy it and paste it with Ctrl Shift and down arrow key. And now the second button I will select will be our delete button. So I'm naming it as del btn, and here change the class name as del. Again copy and paste it with Shift Alt down arrow key, and now we will select our result button. So I have selected the result button, and also I will change the class. The class was result. Let me show you. This is the button, the equal button that I am talking about. And again copy and paste it, and now the buttons that I will select will be operators button. Okay, so operators buttons means basically those 4 buttons: plus, minus, divide and multiplication. So this is going to all those 4 buttons. So to select more than one element in a single variable, I will have to change query selector to query selector all. So it will select all those 4 elements, and now we have assigned all those 4 elements with under a same class name as operator. So I can type operator, and that will select all the 4 elements. Okay, and now similar to it, I will select our all num buttons. Okay, so we have basically 1 to 9 and also a decimal in our num buttons. Okay, so I will change the class name in here to operator to num. Now we have successfully selected our all the elements. We have selected the screen first, screen second, all clear button, delete button, result button, operators buttons, and number buttons. Okay, and now we can start working with that. So for this tutorial, as I said earlier as well, that I'll be using the classes and objects. Okay, so first I will make the class, and in there I will assign all the methods like appending the number, omitting the screen, deleting the number, and many more functions. And with that class I will create a object, and with that object I can assign all the functions. So for that I will create a class, and I'm naming the class as calculator. And it is naming convention that whenever you name a class, you use the first letter of the name as capital. So it's just a convention, you can follow that or not, it's upon you. So now I will make a constructor. So a class, whenever you create a class, a constructor is created with that, whether you define it or not. If you don't define it, it will automatically create a empty constructor for you. But now I'm defining it, and in here I will pass two arguments. The first will be our screen first, this, and the second will be our screen second. Okay, so in here argument I will pass the parameter as text element first for our screen first, and text element second for our screen second. I have named it wrong. So in constructor we are taking two parameters. The first one is text element first, and the second one is text element second as screen first and screen second respectively. And now let's select those two parameters. So I'll name it text element first as text element first, and that's text element second as text element second. Okay, so this is the way you have to use this keyword in order to use the classes. Okay, because this represents basically the object that you will create with this class. This class basically represents the blueprint, and the object that you will create will be the actual object from which you can use all the functions. So now we have selected our both the screens. Now we will assign two arrays as well. So first array will be input, and I will tell you why I am assigning those two arrays. So first will be input num string. Both the arrays will be empty if at the starting, and the second will be input operator string. Okay, so basic idea behind creating those two arrays is like the input num string array will store the all numbers that we will type, and the operator string array will store all the numbers that we will all the operators, basically the one of the four operators that we will click on. So the basic idea behind creating those two array is that we will store the numbers that we will click on. It will go into input num string, and the operators, those four operators that we will click on, it will go on operator string. and from these two array we will extract those elements, the numbers and the operators from respective arrays, and then we will use those things into our calculation. Okay, and with that we will lead another variable as this dot, I'm naming it as current num as empty string. Let me, yes, so basically what it will do, it will store the current number that we are typing. Like if we type 1, it will store 1. If we type 2 again, it will append that 2, and it will, the current num will be 1 to 12. Okay, so basic idea behind creating the current num is that. And once we press any of the operator button, this current num will push the element, the string, into num stream, the array that we created, this array, and this will again will be empty after pushing that element. Okay, so this is the basic idea behind our calculator, that how will be the working of the calculator. And with that, now I will create some methods. The first method will be our omit method. This will be responsible for clearing the screen. The second method will be append digit, and it will take a argument number basically, and it will append the number that we will type. Like if we type 1, it will show 1, and then if we type 2, it will append that 2 to 1. Okay, so the method will do appending digit task, and it will also take a parameter. And after append digit, the next method that we will have will be choose operation. So basically it will store, this function will be responsible for storing the operator button text that we will click on. One of those 4 operators that we will click, this will push those operators into our input operator stream array. Okay, so it will also take a parameter that will be operator obviously. And after that, we will have another method that will be delete. So this will be responsible for deleting the digits. And after that we will have the last, not last, but a very useful method, that is calculate. So basically this is the method which will be responsible for calculating the result, that whatever we have in those two arrays, in number array and in the operators array, it will extract that and will calculate it. Okay, and after the calculation, to show the result on the screen, we will use a method that is update screen. Okay, so it will be responsible for to show data on both of the screen first and the screen second. That's why we pass the text element first as screen first and text element second as screen second as a parameter. So now we have successfully created the class. Now it's time to fill all those functions and make those functions work. But before that, let me create an object, a calculator object. So for that I will name that as, the object name will be calc, and to create an object with class we use a keyword that is new and the class name that is calculator, and in here we will pass those two arguments, the text element first and the text element second. So those will be screen first and screen second that we have selected, okay, previously. So I will just type screen first and screen second. We have passed those two arguments in our constructor basically. Okay, so now first we will start with our append digit method, and in this method I will use if else statement, and in the if what I will pass, that if our current num, the variable that I have declared in our constructor, that is set to empty, if that is empty. So let me select that with this dot current num. Okay, so if this dot current num is equals to empty string, that means if that is empty, and this will be empty on two occasions. First, when we haven't done anything, that we will start clicking on the buttons, because we have set it as current num as empty string, so it will start as an empty string. So the first condition is that, and the second occasion will be when we press any operator button. As I told you earlier, that when we press any of the operator button, it will get empty to store other numbers after that operator, okay, other operand. So there will be two occasions when this current num string will be empty. Okay, so now let me write else as well. So yes, first we will see for the when this is empty. So when this is empty, what we will do, we will just append the number or the button we are clicking on with the inner text. Okay, so we'll just type this dot current num plus equals to number dot inner text. Okay, so this way we will append the number text on which we are clicking, and it will get appended to our current num. Okay, so with that, now if we try our calculator, it is the final project. So what happens if I try to make you understand that if we click 5, it will first get that 5 to our current num string. Okay, and if we click 6, it will get that 6 again appended to our current num, so it will become 56. And as soon as we click any one of the operator button, like if we click on plus, that string, the current num string, will get empty. So it is although our final project, I am showing that. Now if we get to our current project, now if we click any of the number, it doesn't happen anything. Why? Because we haven't like call this method ever. So to call that function, what we will do, first we will select that num buttons that we have selected earlier. Okay, those buttons from 0 to 9 and also that decimal. So I will come here and select num buttons dot for each, because it has the num buttons are not a single button, it is having 0 to 9 and also that decimal button. So I will use this num buttons dot for each button. For each button I will run a function, and in this function I will call that method. So to call that method, I will select that object that we created with the class, the calc. Okay, we select that object, and with that object we will call that method. So I'll just tap append digit, and we will pass the button as argument, because whatever the number we are clicking, we need to append that button's inner text. Okay, here number is taking that argument as parameter. Okay, so I want to append that button's inner text to our current num. Okay, and you know what, still it won't work. Why? Because although we have appended that number, but we never saw or updated the screen. So to update the screen, we created this update screen method, and now in this I will like make this method work to update the screen to show the numbers that we are clicking. Okay, so for that But you know what, before that what I'm going to do is, whenever I will append this number, what I want to push that number or push it current num to our input num stream. So I will just type this dot input num stream dot push this dot current num, and now it will push the current num to our input num stream, the array that we created here. Okay, this array which is empty at the time of initializing. Okay, so what it will do, this append digit method, it will first append that number to current num, and after appending it will push this number to our input num stream array. Okay, so now in our update screen, what I will do, I will run a loop, a for loop. So I will say for variable I equals to 0 and I less than this dot input num stream dot length. So let me correct it. Yes, so it will basically run from 0 to less than its length. Okay, the array's length, and it will increment by 1 our I index. And with that, what I will do inside this for loop is, I will select that text element first, the screen first. Okay, so now I'm only doing the screen first work. Okay, I'm not calculating anything, and for that calculation we will be using, to show the calculation we are using the text element second, the screen second. But for now I'm not doing any of the calculation work. I'll just showing the number. Okay, so I'll select the text element first, dot inner text, and plus equals to that back arrow key. I don't know what is said, what it is said, but if we do this $sign and curly braces, I can write JavaScript into this. Okay, so what I will do, I will get the element from our array and append it to our screen first. Okay, so I will, to get the element, I will just type input num stream I. So that's way we are getting the ith element from our input num stream, and we are appending it to our text element. Okay, the screen first. And now with that, I will call this function, this method basically as well in our num buttons, in our this, for our num buttons, if we whenever we click that our number. So I will call that method as well. And in fact, the update screen will be called for every button. Okay, whenever we click any button, this method will be called. We will see that in future, but for now, whenever we click the num buttons, first it will call the append digit, and then it will call the update screen. And when we open our browser, it is showing 7 several times. And why is that being showed? We would have definitely made some mistakes in our code. Okay, so by mistake, what I did, I never clicked on the button. What I have to do is, after selecting a button, I will say add event listener for click. So what I will do, whenever I will click, I will run a function, and that function, let me clear this, and that function will call those two methods. The first one is append digit, and it will take the button as argument, and the second one is update screen. Okay, so that was the mistake. We never clicked on the button and we were calling the function, okay, for each button. without clicking it. Okay, so now it says button dot add event listener. Whenever we click a button, it should call those two methods. And now if we test our calculator, now the screen is empty, and if we click on 5, you can see that it is showing 5 on our screen. Again, if we click on 9, it is still showing 9, and it is because, and also if I show you, whatever the button we are clicking, it is always showing the 5. And the reason behind that is, once we click on the button, this current num will get is no more empty. It will get filled with that button text. Okay, and once that is get filled with the text, we should get into this else part. Okay, and we haven't assigned any task to this else part, because once we click on the button, it will get assigned to that button. It will append that button text into it, the current num, and then it will push that current num to input num stream array. Okay, and now for the else part, when the current num string is not empty, it has some element inside it, what we will do? So the thing that we will do is, let me show you. If let's say if I have an array, and the first time the current num is empty, and we click on any of the button, like if we click 5, so it will take 5 inside the current num, and it will push it to num stream. Okay, and now what we want is that whenever our element is not empty, okay, our current num is not empty, what we will do, we will take the last element, the element that we are working on as a current num, we will take this. Okay, and what we will do, we will append the next number that we will click. Like we had first 5, and the next number when we will click, like if we click on 6, what it will do, it will take that 5 and it will append that 6, the next number that we will click, the digit basically, to 5, and it will remove the previous number with this new number. Okay, so the idea behind that is this. Okay, so now let me code it. So what first I will do, I will say first I will do current num dot, sorry, current num is already a string, so we don't need to take its value. So what we will do, I will select current num dot current num and append the next number dot inner text. Okay, once we appended the number, like first time we clicked on 5, so it will have 5, and second time if we click on a number, it will get into the else part, and if let's say if we click on 9, it will append that 9 to 5. Okay, and now I just show you that we will extract that current num, the last element. Okay, because whenever we push any thing into array, it get pushed on the last index. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about the last. So for selecting the last element, what we will do, first we will select the array, and in array, for selecting the last index, what we will do, I will tap this dot input num stream dot length. So whatever will be the length of this array, -1. So this will select the last element of the array. Okay, and now when we have selected it, I will replace it with our current num. Okay, so let me again summarize it, that first we will append that number, the second time or not the first time when we click on the number, it will append that number to pre-existing current num, and that current num will be replaced by this, the previous current num will be replaced by this new current num, okay, with this line of code. And when we replace it, it will update it according to that. We don't have to change anything in update screen, okay. And now if we show you, like if we click 8, 5, but there is a problem. What? Like if we click, it is still taking the previous current num as well. Why is that? Because in our update screen, what is happening here is that we are appending text element to first dot inner text as input num string ith index. That is all right, but before that, before appending the new number, I will first have to clear the previous screen, okay. So for that, what I will do, I will select the this dot text, again type, let me type, yeah. So this dot text element first, I will select that, and I will make this inner text as empty string, okay. So first it will clear the previous result, and then it will append it to the, it will append the element from the array, okay. First it will clear the previous result, okay. So now if we click a number, let's say I click 5 and then 9, so what is happening, it is first clearing the previous screen, and after clearing, it is appending the new number, okay. So this is how it is working. So by now we have seen that how we can append digit and can show that number to our screen, okay. So by this time we have seen that how to append digit and to show the result on the screen with the update screen method. But here there is a problem. And what is the problem? Let me first refresh the screen and type some numbers like 54. And when we type the decimal the first time, it is okay because it is also under our number class. So whenever we click the decimal, it will also get displayed, okay. So for the first time the decimal is okay, no problem in that. But if we type it a number of times, it is getting displayed that number of times as we are clicking on the button. And technically it is wrong, because in a number we can have only one decimal, okay. So to solve the problem, what we will do, we will go again to our append digit method, and in here what I will do, I will check for a condition. What will be the condition? Let me first type number dot inner text is decimal. So basically what I'm typing in here is, if the number that we are taking as argument, if the button we are clicking, its inner text is decimal. If it is decimal, then before moving forward, do some tasks. What task? To check if we have decimal present in our number already, don't do anything. And if we do not have decimal, just append the decimal as we are appending any other number. But if we have the decimal present already written out of the function, don't do anything. So to check whether we have decimal present previously or not, there is a method in JavaScript called includes. with the help of that we can check whether we have the decimal in our current num, because we are like we are appending all the numbers in our current num. In here also, if the string is empty, and in here also. Okay, so first check for the current string that whether we have our decimal or not. So for that we will again run a if, and in this if I will check if the current num dot includes, so that is the method dot, this dot means the decimal. So by now what I have written is check if number dot inner text is decimal, that the number we are clicking on is decimal. If it is decimal, get into this loop or this if statement and check again if that if the decimal is already present in our current num or not. So that's why I'm writing current num dot includes decimal. Okay, it will check whether it is already present or not. So if it is present, that's what this statement is saying. If it is present, don't do anything, just return out of the function. Okay, and now if we check our calculator, now if we type 5 4, and the first time when we click the decimal, it will get appended because of the code, because it is saying that if we are typing on the decimal, first it will get into this if statement, and again it will check for this statement, and that if this includes, the current num includes decimal previously or not. So for the first time it doesn't like have the decimal previously, so for the first time it won't get enter in this if statement. But once we have entered the decimal for the first time, and after that if we want to again type the decimal, it won't do anything, it will just return. Okay, I'm trying to like type or click on the decimal button, but it is returning out of the because of this if statement. So that's what this little if statement is doing for us. Okay, this if statement. And also there is some minor change that I want to do, is that like when we don't have any number, and then if we click on the decimal and if we click any other number after that, what it should do, like if we don't have any number previously and we click the decimal as our first number, it should like be not single decimal but 0 decimal, like 0 point, what we use in day-to-day mathematics. Okay, so this is very easy, we can perform this task very easily. So for that I will go to first our this first if loop, because what I'm going to do, if the first time, and for the first time this current num will be empty, so we will get into this loop. And if for the first time if we are clicking on the decimal, so I will check for the decimal button with number dot inner text is decimal. So it will check for the decimal, that if the inner text is decimal for the first time, what it should do, the current num should append 0 by default before the decimal, and after appending the 0 we can now append the decimal with number dot inner text. In here inner text is this decimal. So what this if statement is doing, that for the first time if we are clicking the decimal and we don't have anything in our current num or screen, it should append 0 before that decimal by default. That's what this line of code is doing. Okay, so now if we take a look to our calculator and if we click the decimal for the first time, it is appending that, but there is a problem in that it is like appending 2 decimals. Okay, and to solve the problem, let me go to our append digit again. And why does this problem occur? To show you why this problem is getting occurred is because we are calling this current num plus number dot inner text, we are appending 2 times. That's why it is getting displayed 2 times. Okay, so to overcome that, what we'll do, I will make a else statement. Okay, and in this else statement we will just type the second current num plus equals to number dot inner text. So what it will do, it will check if the number is decimal, it will get into this loop, and if the number is not decimal, it will get into this loop. So it won't like append the number 2 times if we assign the if else statement in here. Okay, so now if we take a look, when we are clicking, it is appending 0 by default before the decimal, and it is not showing like 2 decimals. Now we are all good to go. Okay, and now again if we click to decimal button again and again, it won't get displayed because it has already displayed, or it has already occurred 1 time in for our current num. Okay, so it won't get displayed for the second or further times. Okay, so now we are all done with our append digit method. Okay, so that's what we wanted to do with append digit. Now we will move forward to our choose operation method, and we will make it work. So as I told you earlier, that this choose operation method will be responsible for our operator buttons. Okay, it will handle those operator buttons. So now in choose operation method, what I will do, I will first create a variable by the same name of the parameter as operator by this dot operator, and it will contain the operator button that we will type its inner text. Okay, let's say if we type the plus button, it will store the plus, okay, inside it. Okay, so now after the variable or storing the inner text of the operator button, what I will do, just simply push this operator which is storing the operator's inner text into our input operator stream array. The 2 arrays that we created, and one of those array is input operator stream that will store the operators that we will be clicking. Okay, so what I will do, I will just store not like that, but what I will type, I will just push this dot operator. Okay, so we will store the operator's inner text, and after storing it to operator variable, we will push it to our input operator stream array. Okay, and after pushing it to our array, what I will do, I will make our current num empty. Why empty? Because once we have let's say we by appending number we have like 1, 8, 9, 7 as our current num. Okay, and the same number will also be in our array's last element, 1, 8, 9, 7, the array, the input num array. Okay, and once after that, if any time we click the operator, what should happen, like after clicking the operator, we are pushing that operator's inner text to our input operator stream. Let's say if we click on plus button, the operator stream array should have the plus inside it, and once we have pushed it to our operator array, what we need is our current num should become again a empty string. And I'm like having these two quotations mark. Okay, quotation mark. Why? Because after pressing any one of the operators button, if we do that, we should now store the next operand. This was our previous operand, like 1897, and we click the plus. So what will be the calculation when we will go to the calculation part, the method, calculate method that we will create in later. So the perfect equation will be 1897 as our this dot current num. Okay, plus that we are storing it an array, although it 1897 will be taken from the array, but after that to start storing the second operand, we must have to initialize or make our current num string empty once again, so that we can store the current num. Okay, so once it is empty, we can store like any number again with the same method, with the same append digit method. And if we don't make it empty, what will happen, it will have the 1897 as it is inside the current num, and then we will start appending the number, and that will be our second operand. Like if we press any 2 as our second operand in here 2, but it won't get displayed as 2, but it will displayed as 1897 if we don't empty the current num string. So that's the basic idea behind clearing the current num string. Okay, and after that what we want is in update screen, what we are doing, we are looping through the we are looping through the input num string. That's all right, but we are only like displaying the input num streams element. We also now after we press any like operator button, we also want to display the operator as well. So what I will do, I will type this dot text element first, same as before. So this dot text element first, and same the like what is this called, I don't know. I will like show you to the screen. Okay, so I will select the elements from our input operators array, input operator string I. So now what we are doing, like every time we click a number, we are also displaying the operators element as well. Okay, so now we are all set to check our calculator. Let's say if I type first 8, but there is a problem in here. What? Although we are typing 8 or clicking on 8 button, it is displaying this undefined. And why is that? The problem is in here, in this line. What is the problem? Let's say if we type any number for the first time before we haven't typed any of the operator, and if we haven't clicked any of the operators button, our operator array that we have initialized in our constructor is by default an empty array. But the problem because of that we are having undefined is, like, after every click of the button we are also running this we are also extracting element from our input operator stream array as well. But at the starting, when we haven't clicked on any one of the operators, we don't have any operator. Like, it is, let me draw, it is empty. And if it empty and we click on any of the button, and after that we are calling this update scan. So what is happening, that this text element first is also trying to append to itself the input operator's ith element. But for now, when we haven't clicked any of the operator, this array is empty. And when it is empty and it is trying to extract the ith element, it will extract nothing but undefined. So for that I'll have to check for a condition. And what will be the condition? Let me show you. First I will clear it, and if I will check if this dot input operator stream I is not undefined. If it is not undefined, then only extract the element from it. Other than that, don't do anything. Okay, so now if we go to our calculator and we type 8, it is working properly. 6, 2, and now if we type any of the operator, let's say plus, there is a problem. It is not displaying that operator on our screen. Why is that? Let me find the bug. Oh, the reason is nothing but we never called this operator method. So for calling it, what we have to do, we will select these operator buttons, the operators button that we have selected before. So what I will do, just like num buttons, I will also make a function for operators buttons. So I will select operator buttons, and for each button, again for each button I will listen for an event. So I will type button dot add event listener, and that event will be click event. Okay, so yes, whenever we click any one of the operators button, the calc, we have to call that choose operation method, and in here I will pass the button as argument because it is accepting the argument. Okay, and with that, as I told you earlier, that with every press of button, no matter it is a number button or a operator button, we will call the update display, because that is the way update screen method, because this is the method with which we can update our screen. Okay, and now if we again take a look, if I press plus, it is now working properly. Okay, but here there is still a problem. And what is the problem? Like, after clicking any one of the operators button, like for now, when we have clicked the plus button, I'm supposed to now input the operand, not any operator again. Okay, once I have pressed any operators, after that we must press any num buttons. Okay, that's what we have to do. But the problem is that we haven't specified any conditions as per now in our choose operation method, so that we can like disable this operator buttons once we have clicked it. Okay, and when we have clicked it, and we are supposed to click the numbers for now, and because of that, the problem is that occurring is here is that I can keep clicking on this button, and after clicking the button, if I type any of the number, it is showing some like unexpected result that we don't want. So to resolve that, what I have to do, again we will go to our choose operation method, and in here what I will do, I will first so in here what I will do, I will write a line of code to prevent that from happening. Okay, so this will be, if this dot input, I will make you understand in a while, but first let me write the code. If input operator string dot length, that means if input operator's string array length is equals to this dot input num string dot length, do nothing but return. Okay, this is the single line of code that we have wrote, and this will take care of all the problems. Okay, and now let me understand what the single line of code is doing. So for that, let me draw, and in drawing I am having problem because of this keypad. I don't have any like pen and those Wacom like thing, so you'll have to bear that. So like this is our num array. Again I have to type. So yes, this is like our num array, and let's say I have 26 as our first element, and after 26th I type an operator. So in operator array, although I am naming it shorthand with shorthand, but this is basically input operator string. I can't name that big length name. Okay, so for that, for convenience, I am typing it as or writing it as operator array. So let's say after the number I type plus, and what it is this line of code is doing, if you can see, it's saying that if number string dot length, that means if this array's length, for now it is 1, is equals to this operator string length, and this is the operator, and for now it is 1, is equals to input num string length, and this is our num input num string length, that is also 1. Okay, so if both the array's length are equal, we can think that if both the array's length are equal, we must now have to put second number, not any operator. Okay, because if we try to build an equation with that, the equation will be 26 plus, and now we are supposed to type the second operand. That's why this line of code is doing, if it is that both the length are same, if both the length are same, we have this clear that we can't push any of the operators now in this array. Although after that 26, if I type 5, and now let's take a look of this line of code. Now do we have both the length same? No, we have two as numbers array length and one as operator's array length. And as per now the equation will be 26 plus 5. Okay, and now since both the arrays length are not equal, we have operator's array length 1 less than the number's array length. Now we can easily type any operator, and once we type, both the arrays length becomes again equals, and the equation will be 26 plus 5 minus, and if it gets equal, and now we are supposed to type again another operand other than the operator. So this is the basic idea behind the line of code that prevents us typing like operator button repeatedly even if we have typed once. Okay, now if we take a look in here, if we type 89 plus 6 plus, if we no matter how many times click on that, it won't do anything because the array's length is equal in like we can see it from here also. We have 89 6 in our numbers array and plus 2 plus in our operators array. So we do have like both the arrays of same length, so it won't type any plus, and after that if we type any like number, it will have the effect of that. So that's what that single line of code can do for us. Okay, and now there is a minor, like not a problem, but the thing that I want to update. Now what is that? Like let's say we don't have any we don't type any number when we start the calculator typing. Other than number, we start with operator. Like if we type plus, it is doing nothing. Why? Because it will only update, like in here update screen method, we have specified that this should be input num string.length, but if we start from operator, the length is 0. Okay, and so it won't get enter in this loop. So what we want, like if we start from the with operators, we want to like push 0 in our input num array by default. So if we push that, now the array becomes like array length becomes 1, and now we can easily get into the update display method, and 0 doesn't change our calculation as well, so it becomes easier. So now I will type this dot input num string dot length is equals to 0 if it is 0, and we typed just operator button. So what we need to do is input num string dot push 0. Okay, so it will by default push 0 if we start the calculator by any operator. It will push the 0 on the input num string array, and now it will work. Let me type any operator here. If we type like plus, you can say that we are having like 0 plus, because it is by default pushing that 0 into our input num array. Okay, so that's what it is doing, and now all will do work perfectly fine. There is no problem in that. Whatever the element we will click, it will do perfectly fine. We can only click the decimal button only once. We can like click operator buttons, not 2 operators buttons can have on the same like along with. Okay, so that all we have take care of. So now by this time we have like worked with our screen first, but we also want to calculate that. As if I show you our final project, as we click the number, although our screen first is updating, that we have learned or we have did already, but now it's time to do the work with for our screen second, so that it could calculate the result and give it to our screen second. Okay, so now we will do the task for that to in our calculate method, this method that I have calculated. And this method, believe me, is very like crucial and all, because the calculator work is like obvious work is calculation, so this method is going to be very useful and also crucial. So please pay attention on it, like how I calculate the numbers that we have clicked by now. Okay, so by this time we have created our append digit method, and also we have created our choose operation, and we are displaying our screen with update screen method. So now it's time to make work our calculate method. So for that I'm having a variable by the name of compute, and other than that I'll be having two more variables. That will be, first one will be the second num, and the second one will be the operator. Okay, so here compute will work as a first num as well, and what we will do, we will return the compute. So whatever the operation we will perform, we will store that in our compute variable, and we are also returning this compute variable. So whatever the answer will be, we will replicate that on our screen second. If I could show you in our final project, like this is the second screen. So in here whatever operation we are doing, the second screen will return us the calculate, and that's what we are replicating in the second screen. Okay, so if I do like 5 plus 1, the operation will be 6, the result will be 6, and that's what we are replicating on our screen second. Okay, so now let's go to our calculate method, and in here, as I said, that the compute variable will also work as our first num, and we have like second num and operator. So the basic idea behind the calculation is, like let's say if this is our input num stream array, and we have like 21 and 56 as numbers in our input num stream array, and let's say this is our like operator array. Okay, and we have plus and let's say multiplication sign. Okay, and as I told you earlier as well, that we can't have more elements in our operator array than the number array. Okay, so we can at most have the equal amount of elements as we have in our num array. Okay, so now these two elements are in our num array, and these two elements are in our operator array. So if I try to build an equation with that, that will be 21 plus 56 and the multiplication sign. So what we are basically doing, we are like having a first num as operand, and what we have named the first name as the compute. So this will be our compute at initial stage when we will calculate. So this will be our compute, and this will be our operator, and the third number or the second number will be the second num, this. Okay, so we will first build a equation like this through this calculate method, and then we will calculate, and we will also see that how can we handle this extra operator, and having that extra operator we have to find the right calculation. Okay, so being said that, what I will start to do, we will first have two iterators. One will be for our input num string array, and the second iterator will be for our input operator string array. Okay, so I will create two. The first will be first count, and I am initializing the first count, which will iterate through the input num string with not the index 0 but the index 1, and why I will show you in a minute. And also we will have a second count that will iterate through our operator array, so I'll name it second count, and it will start from 0, so it will start from the 0th index. And why did I selected the first count that is responsible for iterating the input num string array as 1? Why not 0? Because as we start calculating, we will select the compute that I also told will be responsible for the first num. At the initial state, we will select it as first element, so we don't need to specify the 0th. Okay, because we are selecting compute as 0th element, or the first element, or the 0th indexed element of our input num array. So how will I select that? I can directly say this dot input num string array 0. So now this compute will carry the first element of our input num string array. But the problem is that we have elements in our array as in string format, because if I show you, we are what we are storing is this current num in our input num string, or even in our input operator string, we are storing string. So to get the number, what we'll have to do is we will have to convert the string into number, and JavaScript provide a method for that, which is called parse float. So what I will do, first I will clear this, and I will run a method that is parse float, and inside the parenthesis I will just paste it the first element. Okay, and now what it will do, let's say we have 22 as our first element in our input num string, but it is stored as string format. So now what it will do, compute, it will convert it to number. Okay, and we will do it for every the second number as well. Okay, so after that, what I will do, I will also select the first element, okay, of the operator array. So to select that, now after that what we will do, we will run a while loop. Okay, so while, and the condition will be, condition of termination will be, let me first write first count less than this dot input num string dot length. So the termination condition of this while loop is until and unless our first count, that is this one, is less than the length of our input num string, we have to run through this loop. Let's say we have, if I could type or draw, we have 2 1 for easy I'm just having a single digit number, and 3 as in our input num string array. So as the first count is already 1, so it will like go to second element like 1, and the third element like 3, and then after when it will try to like again loop through this while loop, it won't, because now it gets the condition of termination. Okay, and we will be increasing the first count by 1 at the end, so that our while loop works properly. It doesn't like run in a finite loop. Okay, so inside while loop what I will do, like we have our first num as compute. Okay, like let's say our first num is like 21 in our array. Okay, and compute is like selecting the first name, is also working as first name. Now what we will do, we like for operation what we need 2 operand and a operator in between of them. So we have first operand as compute. Now we will select the second operand. So second operand I have named it as second num. Okay, in here, and again we will like do the same that we did for compute. I will just copy it and paste it here. But the thing will be, I will like except then like hard coding the indexes, I will just run the first count. Okay, inside the index. Okay, so the first count will be like the 1. Now like the second number will be our second element of our input num array, and we have already selected the first num as compute, and that is our 0th element or the first element of our input num array. Now it's time to select our operator. Okay, so I will just type operator that we have declared here variable. Okay, and like we just selected the element from array, we will do same for the operator, but from operator array. So for that we will just type this dot input num input operator array, input operator string in fact, and we will have the index as second num. Here the second name is like defined. Okay, and we will increase the first count and as well as the second count at the end of the while loop. Okay, so now the scenario is that we have like selected the compute as our first num, we have selected the second number of our array as second num, and we also have our operator. Okay, so now we have selected the 3 main elements to do our calculation. Now we can perform our calculation. Okay, so to perform the calculation, what we will do, we will run but we will have a switch. Okay, the switch is a like data type, not really data type, but switch is a like alternative of the if else condition. And what the benefit of using switch is, like we can check for multiple conditions for only one element. Okay, so that's the switch provides us. So in here I will run the switch, and what we will check inside the switch, we will check for the operator. Like we have 4 operators now, like plus, minus, multiplication, and as well as divide. So we will have 4 cases in our switch. Okay, and we will check for the operator. So inside here I will pass the operator. I'll have like inside the parenthesis we will have 4 cases. First will be if the operator is plus. Okay, so if the operator is plus, what we will do, we will just have compute plus equals to second num. Okay, so what we are doing basically, like let's say we have compute as 21 the first num, we have operator like plus, and we have second num as 3. So if we find the operator is like plus the first case, so what we are doing, that compute, which is 21 plus 3. Okay, so that will give us the result as 24, and now 24 will be our new compute. Okay, and we could also do it with like compute equals to compute plus second num. So both the line of code are same. The thing is that it is little bit short. Okay, let me clear this up. The second line we don't need that, and we will also break the case. And why do we need to break the case? Because like if we find a certain case for the operator, so what we need to do, we need to like prevent from going to other cases. Like if we don't break, what will happen after, like even if we find the case first, like operator is plus, and we have done the calculation, but that will also go for this another cases, and that we don't want. Like if we once find the particular case, a valid case, we just need to calculate our compute and return back from it. That's why we are using break. Okay, and the second case will be for our minus. Okay, and now again for minus the same, but just replace plus with minus, and we will have compute minus equals to second num, and again break the case. Okay, and the third case will be for multiplication, and at the place of multiplication I am using X sign. Okay, because we have like in our HTML we have inserted the X sign inside our button. That's why I am checking for the X sign. Okay, and now if the case is this, again we will just multiply, and for multiplication we have like asterisk sign for multiplication. We can't like use X equals to, we'll have to use multiplication, that is above the 8 button. Okay, so we'll have compute asterisk equals to second num, and below that we'll have our break statement. And now the fourth case and the final case is for divide. So if that is divide, we'll just have compute divide equals to second num. Okay, and now in here we don't need to break actually, because below of this fourth and last condition we will not have any other cases below that. So it's not like we can't like go in below of any cases after if the operator is like divide. Okay, so we don't need to break it here. Okay, so now we have completed our switch condition, and now what I will do, I will increment first count plus equals to 1 the like iterator for our input num stream array, and I will also increase the second count the iterator for our operator array by 1. Okay, so now we are all done with our calculate method, but in here there is some problem, and what the problem is, let me show you by drawing some numbers. Let's say this is our input num array, and let me create a array for our operator. Okay, as well, let's say we have 21. Okay, and after typing 21 I like type operator as plus. Okay, and after plus we have like let's say 5 6 56, and after that let's say I type a operator as minus. Okay, and now let's say we have also a, again we type a number as 24. Okay, now let's take those two arrays as our example, and I'll try to explain the problem. So what is happening is, like, for the first time this will be our compute and also will our the first num, and this will be our operator, and this will 56 will be our second num. Okay, so it will go into this while loop and will give us the calculation as 21 plus 56, okay, equals to 77, and it will store in compute as we are doing in compute in here. Okay, so for the first time all are good, we are totally fine. Okay, but what happens in the second time? Let's say we have 77 as our compute. Okay, again we will go into the loop. We will have now operator as minus, because we are incrementing the indexes iterator. Okay, as second count and first count, and our second number will be 24. Again it's okay, we will have the result like 7 minus 4 3 and 7 minus 2 5. Okay, now all are fine. But let's say after 24 I type another operator as multiplication. Okay, so now it will again go into this loop, and what it will do, like, we have compute as our first operand as 53, we have our operator as multiplication, but we are missing the second operand because we don't have any second operand now. Like, we have used all three operands and we don't have any second operand. And when we get into this loop and we will search for the second num, for the second operand, what it will do, although we don't have, but it will, when it will fetch the second num, and when it will not find the second num, it will give us the not a number thing, because if we fetch the index that we don't have and convert that to parse float to number, it will give the not a number condition. Okay, so in that case what we want to do, just we want to return the compute as it is. Like, now what will be the condition? We will have like 53 into, and after that we don't have any second operand. Okay, I like, if you could see this or not, let me write it here. So the condition will be 53 into, and we are missing for our second operand. So whenever this condition occurs, what we need to do is we have to just like assign compute as compute. Okay, we don't need to compute anything. So I will check for the condition here. So what I will do is I will say if is not a number. So this is a method basically in our JavaScript that will check whether second num is not a number or not. Okay, so basically if the second num is not a number, and whenever this condition becomes true, what we will do, we will just type compute as compute. Okay, we don't need to do anything, although we could only return the compute from here, but we are returning compute at the last, so we don't need to like write it. We can just say compute equals to compute, don't compute anything, as we are doing in here. And what I will do now, I will wrap it this switch condition in our else case. Okay, so now this will work perfectly for our calculate method. Okay, so now when we have like calculated the calculation, it's time to show it in our second screen. So for that we will go to our update screen, and in here I will just write this dot text element second, that is responsible for the second screen. I will just type dot inner text equals to like back arrow or whatever it is said, I don't like remember it for now, equals to $sign, and inside the curly braces I can write our JavaScript. So I will just type this dot calculate, and what the calculate method is doing, it is returning out the compute variable. So whatever the computation result will be, it will return that to our second screen. Okay, and now if we go and check our calculator, let's say I type 5, it is showing the result, calculated result is 5, and I type plus, all good. Now let's say I type 9, so it's not calculating now. There must be something wrong that we have done. Let me check. Okay, so what is happening here, like we are not incrementing those first count and second count inside our while loop. So I by mistake write it or wrote it outside the while loop. Okay, so it was like running into like infinite loop maybe, or whatever would be happening. Okay, so that's why it is saying the page is responsive, because I think that it is running in infinite loop. So I will exit page, let me close it, and this is our final project, so don't worry about that. Let me again open it with our live server. And now if we do any calculation, so the thing is that still we have some problem in here. Okay, so the problem is that instead of here passing the second second count, by mistake I have like written the second num. Let me type the second count. Okay, so let's hope now it should work properly. Let's again go to our calculator, and in here if we calculate, now it is working like perfect. We can do the calculation as many as we want. It will handle that all the calculations. Okay, now we have like done our pretty much all the methods, but we are left with the delete and omit. Okay, so omit is kind of simple. So first let's do our omit method. Okay, so to work our omit method, what we have to do, we have to just clear both the screen first as well as the screen second. So what I will do, I will just type this dot input num stream. So to clearing the screen, what we need to do is to empty the array, because we are having elements append to both the screen from our arrays. So if we like empty the array, we won't have any like elements or numbers or operators on either of the screens. Okay, so for that I will just empty both the arrays, the input num stream array as well as the operator stream array. Okay, so for that first let's clear the input num string, and for that, for emptying the array, we have a method in JavaScript that is splice. So in here I will like first parameter is the index from where you want to clear, so I will pass it from the 0th index to the length of the array, so it will clear the whole array. Okay, so that's why I'm typing the from 0 to the length. And again we will do same for the input operator stream. So I will just change the name from num to operator, and in here also I will say input num to operator. Okay, now it will clear the screen. But after clearing the screen, or when we clear the screen, we also need to specify the current num again as empty, because we don't want any elements even after we clear the screen. Why we clear the screen? Because we want to start from the new. So if we have like previous element stored in our current num string, so that will get into the problem. So that's why we should, or we have to clear the or empty the current num string as well. Okay, and to call this omit method, we have selected the all clear button here. Okay, so I will listen for an event for our all clear button. So in here I will just type all clear button, select the button element, and I will listen for an event listener. That will be add event listener, and the event will be for click. So whenever we click this button, what we want is like to call that method, that omit method. Okay, so whenever we click this button, we want to call this omit method. And also after clearing the screen, we also like after emptying both the arrays, we also want to again call the update screen method, because then after it will update the screen now. And if we don't like call this update screen, we will have the same element even after the clicking on the all clear button. Okay, so for that we have to call the update screen method as well. So now if we check our calculator, let's say we have 89 plus 6, that will give 95, and if we click all clear, it is clearing the screen. But what is happening here is that when we clear the screen, what we are doing, we are like emptying the arrays. And when we empty the arrays, what happens, if I could show you here, because we are having the elements from, or we are calculating the elements, and after calculation we are calling it in our update screen. So after like calling this omit method, when we call this update screen method, so it also go for the calculate from here to here. But right now the condition becomes that both of our arrays are empty, and that's why it is giving us not a number in return of calculation, because it can't find any number. So that's how it can calculate. So for that we will have to check for a condition inside our update screen, and that will be if this dot input num string dot length is equals to 0. If it is 0, and when it will be 0, at the first timing when we will start the calculator, and when we will clear the screen. Okay, so 2 times this will be 0, the length will be 0. Okay, so now what I will do, first I have cleared that line of code, and inside this like if statement, what I will do, I will just do the text element second dot inner text should be 0. Like when we don't have any elements in our input num stream array, just give the result as 0. Okay, and else if we have, then run the same line of code. I have pasted it here, then just do the calculation. Okay, and now if again check for the calculator, let's say we have 92 plus 2, that is 94. And now if we clear the screen by clicking the all clear button, now we can see that the second screen result is at 0. Okay, so that's what we have done on our calculator yet, and that was pretty much all the major functions or method that we have to do in our calculator. Okay, but we are still left with a last method, that is delete. So what this delete will do, let me show you through our final project. Let's say we have 56 plus 9 5. So whenever we click on this delete button, what it will do, it will delete the element one by one. Like first it deleted the 5, then 9, then it will delete the plus, then it will delete the 6, then it will delete the 5, and at the last, when we don't have anything in our array, it will give the 0. Okay, so we want to make the delete method work as well. So in delete method, what we will do, let me first visualize the thing that I'm going to do in here. Let's say in our num array we have 323. Let me again draw it. Let's say in our num array we have like 23 and 56 as our numbers. Okay, so this is our num array, and let's say in our operator array we have plus. Okay, so now what we will do is, like whenever the input num stream length is greater than the input operator stream length. Okay, so whenever it is greater than the num array length is greater than the operator array length, we will like remove elements from the num array. Okay, and when it is equals to or less than, we will like remove elements from the operator array. Okay, so we will have one if else condition to perform this. So I will just type here, if this dot input num stream dot length is greater than this dot input operator stream dot length. So if the num stream length is greater than the operator stream length, now what we need to do, and here also there is a problem. What? Let me show you. Like let's say we have 26 as our first number and 54 as our second number, and we have a operator array. Let's leave it for now and concentrate on the num array. So now definitely we will remove like element 54 if we delete the element, but we can't like delete or remove or pop out the 54 in whole. What we have to do, we have to first pop out the 4 and again 5. Okay, so that's way we have to pop out the elements. We can't just remove the whole number as in a one click. We have to like take care of that as well, but that's because we just want to delete one element. Okay, whenever we delete the or click the delete button. Okay, so to perform this, what I will do, first I will select the last element, and for that I am naming it as last num, and I will select the last element or last num from our input num array. So I will just type input num string, and to select the last, what we have to do, we can just type this dot input num string dot length -1. So what it will do, it will give us the last element. Okay, so let's say we have 12 comma 56, so last num will be 56. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to like create another variable new num, and what this new num will do, it will have the last num dot slice, not splice but slice. Okay, slice 0 comma last num dot length -1. So let's say if we have 56 as our last num that we are selecting here, and what this new num will have, it is basically what slash does, it just cut the elements from a string. Okay, or from a number, whatever it is, not basically from a number but from a string. So that's what slash does. So what we want to have new num as all the elements but one less than the last element. So now the new num will have 5. Okay, let's say if we had the last num as 256, then the new num will be, after like slicing, the new num will be 25. So what is basically doing slicing, it is slice, it does slice the last element or last digit. Okay, but here also there is a problem. Let's say we only have 2 as our last num, and when we slice this, then we have like new num as empty. Okay, like we slice the last digit, and here the last and the first digit is same 2, and whenever we slice this, we will left with empty string for our new num. Okay, so we will check for that condition as well. So now underneath that, the new num I will type, but before that what I want to do is this dot input num string dot pop. Okay, once we selected the new num, last num, and we have like removed the last digit of that, now we don't want anymore the last element. So what does the pop do, it just removes the last element. Let's say we had 56 and we like selected the 56 as last num, and the new num will be 5, and after doing those two things, we don't want the last element, so we will remove or pop out the last element. That's what pop does, 56. Now we are only left with 12 in our input num array. Okay, so after popping out the last number or the last element, what we will do first, as I said, like we can have the condition when we might have the new num as empty string. Okay, so we will check for that. So if that is not a empty string, okay, and if it is an empty string, then go in this else loop. And if it is not, like we have some elements in our new num, then what we need to do, we will just push the new num in our input num stream array. So I will just type input num stream array dot push the new num. Okay, and after pushing that, we will have the this dot current num as new num. Okay, because now because the current num should also get changed now, because current num might be having like 56, and after like slicing we had the new num as 5. So also the current, and after that we push that 5 to our new array, so the current num also should get updated. That's why we are doing current num as new num. Okay, and in else, when we have our input new num as empty string, so what we will do, then we don't do anything, just initialize the current num as empty string, because when we have new num as empty, then we can understand that we must have the plus as our, or any operator as our last element. So we have operator, then we must have to like put any operand after the operator now. So that's why we are doing this, the current num as empty, so that we can fill the next operand. Okay, so that was for this if condition. When the input num stream length is less than the operator stream length, then I said that we will remove the elements from our num array. Okay, and when we don't have this condition, let's say we have equal, then what we'll do, we will remove the element from input operator stream. So for here, to like remove the element or pop out the element from our operator, we don't have to do much thing, because in here we don't have like, we have like single element, like any plus, minus, into, so we can just pop out, like we will just pop out this X sign. The only thing that I had to do was for the input num array, and for the input operator array, don't do anything, just pop out the element. Okay, and now what I will do, I will call this delete method as well. So to call the delete method, I have selected this delete button here. So what I will do, in here at the very bottom, I will just type del button dot remove dot add event listen. So I will listen for an event, and that will be a click event. So if we click on the delete button, we want to call the delete method. Okay, and after deleting again, we will have to update. Okay, as I said at the very beginning, that for every button we click, we have to call the update screen method, so that we can keep updating our screen, whatever thing we do after that. Okay, so I'll just type calc.update screen. Okay, and now if we check our calculator in here, if I type 5, 6 plus 9, and if we delete, you can see like how easily it is deleting the elements. Let me again show you, like we have 59.29 plus 32, and if we start deleting it, let's see that's how perfectly it is deleting the elements. Okay, so that's what our delete method does. Okay, now we are all done with our all the methods, but there's still a thing left, and that is not a very big deal. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I go to our final project, let's say if I do some calculation, and after that when we click our equal buttons. So right now what is the case is, like after screen first is as bold and screen second is as normal font. Okay, but what happens when we click the equal buttons, the screen second gets bold. Okay, so the screen second gets bold and screen first becomes normal as font size. And again, if we start calculating, the screen first again gets bold. So that's the thing that we want to include in our calculator as well, and that will be the final thing. So for that, let me first go to our this project and go to our Visual Studio Code. So for like having that type of transition, we will go to our style.cs, and in here we will define two classes. One will be the big, I'm naming big as bold, and it will have properties as margin left as auto, font size as 1.5 rem, and font let me type font weight. Okay, and font weight will be, let me map get it from our font weight, and that will be bold. Okay, so this was about the big class, and now we want to declare our small class. For this, again the margin left will be, let me type margin left will be auto, font size will be 1.2 rem. Okay, and font weight will be, let me type map get not, I don't want that, and in here font weight, and I will select the regular as our font weight. Okay, so that's how we declared or created two classes in our SAS with 3 lines of styling, and with those classes we will specify the code for our JavaScript. Okay, so what I will do, I will like type the code and then I will show it to you, because that is not a very big deal. It is just a bit lengthy or a bit like a lot of a little bit of line there. So I will just type it and then I will show it to you after typing. So now I have written the code for our transition, and that is, first in our update screen, what I'm doing, that whenever we update the screen, we remove the class small from screen first and remove the class big from screen second, and add the class big to screen first, and also add the class like small to our screen second. Okay, so that's what we do whenever we update the screen. And when we update the screen, when we click the any of the button except the equal button. So now when we click the equal button that I have named as result button, what we are doing, we are just doing opposite of the update screen. We are like removing big from the screen first, removing small from the screen second, and now we are adding class listed, we are adding class small to screen first and big to screen second. Let me show you it in here. If I type 9.6, you can see that that's how it is, like having the screen first as bold and screen second as regular font. Okay, and now whenever we click the equal button, what happens, that the screen first becomes the regular font and the screen second becomes the bold. Okay, and again if we start calculating, again the screen first becomes the bold and the screen second becomes the regular. So that's what that line of code does. Okay, so that's what it for the calculator making series. We are all done with our JavaScript, and we have made the calculator fully functional with JavaScript. So if you get anything, like if you don't get anything, I will also give you the link in my description box of this video, the GitHub link where I have posted or I have uploaded the code of this application, and you can like go through that code, or you can download as well that code in your machine. Whatever you want to do, you can do. And also I have like hosted the final project on GitHub also, so you can check that as well. So yes, with that being said, if you like this tutorial and if you did like watch the whole video, if you like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to the channels. That will motivate me to create videos like this. So that's what for this tutorial. I'll catch up with you in the next one. So bye for till then, enjoy man.